Perfect. Welcome everyone to our October Notion office hours. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. It's an honor to talk about a piece of software that I find really inspiring, fun to use, and just something that has kind of taken my life in a direction that I didn't really think it would go. Wanted to get started really quickly with just an admin thing. I want to be transparent about my lack of relationship with Notion. I have no financial relationship with Notion. This has come up a few times. I'm not an investor, advisor, consultant, employee, affiliate only through sharing, the original affiliate code that we all get when we sign up to Notion. But I got capped out on that anyway. I do this purely out of my early evangelism for the product, for teaching you guys what I think is a transformative product. And of course, as you know, I have a course on Notion, but again, complete non-affiliation. Really quick background, I'm sure all of you know me, but just in case, my name is Kei He. I am the creator of Rad Reads, which is a blog, a newsletter, a community focused around the question of what's important but not urgent. And I help people think about that when it comes to relationships, money, work, and ultimately themselves. So today, what I thought I would do is just walk you through my setup. I'm going to walk you through my setup. I'm going to show you all how I use all these different features. I'm going to assume that there's some baseline knowledge of the app itself. And after that, I'm going to take Q&A and answer any questions. If you guys want to see me build something on the fly, I'm more than happy to do that. So the one thing that I do ask is that I ask you to hold your questions till I'm done with the presentation. It should be about 15-ish minutes, just so that people who watch it on repeat can go through it much smoother. And if for some reason you have issues with hearing me or seeing a screen, I ask that you not use the chat, just like barge in with your voice, because it's easier that way. All right, let's jump in. Let's go to my Notion setup. Let me share my screen with you guys. All right, so you should be able to see my my Notion screen right here. Let me just make things smaller. Okay. All right, so here is my Notion screen, my startup screen, and I'm going to walk you through a bunch of different ways in which I use Notion. And just for a little bit of backdrop, I came to Notion as someone who's a very kind of productivity obsessed person, and my stack before I got to Notion, before I discovered Notion about a year ago, was mostly Evernote, OmniFocus, and just a bunch of like email and calendar, things like that. Most of my life was in Evernote, and since I haven't fully migrated over, but I have not really added anything new into Evernote. I still use OmniFocus as well, and we'll talk about why and when I use OmniFocus. But to me, the Notion has been just a complete godsend in its ability to really create tailored, workflows, apps, systems that are directly mapped to how my brain works. And I want to show you some of those, and you'll see as we go through this, my system is a bit of a mishmash. It draws heavily from David Allen's Getting Things Done. It draws heavily from Tiago Forte's Building a Second Brain, specifically his PARA method. Other influences are Tony Schwartz, the power of full engagement, which is energy and time management, and then a lot of different kind of note-taking philosophies, specifically as it comes to books. Reading books. So let's just dive in. My setup, we're looking at my dashboard, but I really want to jump in with my setup around the PARA method. And PARA is a folder structure, basically an organization structure coined by my friend Tiago Forte, that basically says everything in your life, your notes, your tasks, your files, can be combined into these four kind of root level domains. And they are projects, areas, resources, and archive. And that's where you get the acronym PARA. And PARA, you could think of it as a folder structure, but if I click into my PARA, you will then see the different projects, areas, resources. I didn't show the archive. That would be under view all. And so projects, this is not a course about Para, but projects are really things that are time bound, that have specific deliverables, and then they end, like recruit a new COO, or in my case, some of my projects are launch my Notion course. I'm going camping with my daughter. I need to change my health insurance. These are all projects. Areas is probably the most unique part of Tiago Forte's PARA system, which areas are parts of your life, both personal and professional, that need a minimum standard of maintenance. So your health, your relationships, your skills. There's no deadline, right? You never stop working on your health, and there can be tasks within those areas. But these are things that require a minimum standard of maintenance for you to thrive as a human being and as a professional. Resources are, as the name implies, just collections of lists and places that lists, links, ideas, fragments, so on, that advance you towards your bigger life purpose. And I'll go through each one of those, but that is the core of the PARA method, and an archive is anything that doesn't fall into those three categories. So as you'll see, and this is a little bit unique, I think, to other folks versus other Notion setups, is that I organize my files through tables. So these, and again, this is a little bit advanced. If you've never used Notion, I'll just give you a quick refresher. Notion's basic unit is called a page. It's like a web page, a Google document, a note, an Evernote. However, pages can go into tables, which you can think of as giant spreadsheets, where you can then add different columns, like I have here: review frequency, overdue. You can add formulas, a little bit like Excel. And as a bonus, they link to other tables, which make them databases. So everything is a page. Again, think of it as a note, but you can stitch these notes together in different ways. So if you look at these projects, you could think of these as a bunch of different, to use an Evernote metaphor, they could be notebooks, or they could actually be notes themselves. To use Windows analogy, they could be folders. But let's just click into one of them. Let's click into like a really simple one, which is this camping trip that I have with my daughter. And so this is, again, a page, a document, but in it, I have a list of, things that I need to bring, which is a checklist. If I go back, I have, some notes that are pasted from an email. I have some links here about different lights that I need to buy. And then I have all this metadata that allows me to sort the views by which I can look at this page, this project, within my broader system. And so if you look through here, these are all the current projects that I'm currently working on. And another example would be, I could go into my Notion, launching the Notion course. This is probably where I'm spending the most of my time. And if I go down, ignore this metadata on top, but if I go down, I just have like little notes. I have tasks, and we'll talk about how I link tasks. And then we just have tons and tons of files and testimonials and survey results. Again, these are basically like nested documents. I can paste, I can do embeds. I have toggles for some of my old things. So if you go in here, I've been spending a lot of time, some of you who are subscribed to the course list I'm working on the email, like the launch email series. And so right here, these are some notes for that. And so again, pretty straightforward, a combination of pages that are nested within each other, documents that are nested each other, and spreadsheets. But again, you'll see that this task list is an overarching task list, and I'll talk about that when I show you my database setup. Next, I will flip quickly through to my areas. This is where I spend the most amount of time. Again, what I love about Notion is that because these are all in tables, I can sort them by review frequency. And to me, that's the prioritization. So Family CFO is all of the kind of admin and financial things that I need to deal with as the primary breadwinner and financial organizer of my life. And so this, I can, by tagging this, these are my tags that I've created. I can sort them. I can rise the things I want to the top. I don't really do much. I'm a renter, so there's not much to do on my primary residence, but I do need to update my rent insurance, and I need to fix the garage door or have them fix the garage door. So all of my life, the things that I need to maintain can all be distilled into these 12 or 15 rows. And let's dig in. So if I go to Family CFO, again, this is the metadata. Notion's working on hiding this because it can be a little ugly. But if you go in, these are things related to my finances. Again, a notebook, a document, a list of charitable deductions with amounts, so a built-in spreadsheet. I can go in, my wife and I do monthly money reviews. So here we'll copy and paste different information from You Need a Budget, YNAB, or from our credit card information, so we could talk about it. We talk about our expenses every month. So this is like a little bit of a chat log. And if you wanted to go in, this is actually the master table that all of this information pulls off of. There's a little bit of manual inputting, but it's really like 4 or 5 numbers once a month. And that's important for how we manage our money, our finances. The second one that's super important is product. And that's basically the whole RadRead stack. And so if I scroll into product, again, think of it as a notebook, think of it as a folder, think of it as a spreadsheet, think of it as a mashup of all of these. I was doing a bunch of work on ConvertKit, so I've been thinking about lead magnets and things like that. This little triangle is a toggle, which is a delightful feature. I have some standard operating procedures for the AMAs that I share, for like YouTube and things like that. Again, they're so easy to find. Here I have my product inspiration. These are clips that I grabbed from the internet, interesting videos, a pinned tweet. These are things that are more graphical. The visual cues are important for me to keep them exciting. And again, they're not deadlines, but I know when I have time to work on these projects on my website, and I can go in and go to project inspiration. And then you have like an archive of a bunch of other different things, again, like a series of old notes. Flying through it just so we can get to your questions. Another place I spend a lot of time is my bookshelf. These are the books that I read. Right now, I'm writing a book review on Your Money, Your Life. And so I have some rankings, some classifiers on it. I mean, this one would be nonfiction. And then you have, your classic notes, but again, they have these extra little levers that make things just more readable. They make it clean, and you can paste the embeds are really powerful. So this would be the book notes, and then something like this, like I export my Kindle highlights. This is just a raw export, but again, I do that so it can be searchable, and then I highlight relevant topics. Again, I can then play with different views. I can look at recently read, I can look at books that are completed. Again, all of these views are created by myself. And I can go into, any note and see, I think this one's empty. But like the courage to be disliked, I wrote a series of blog posts on it. These are all different files and notes. And here's the actual draft of the blog post. I'll show you the editorial calendar that I use. This really captures my atomic unit of work, which is ideas and writing. And so I capture all of my ideas, I rank them, I look at this all the time. Some of these stories have little notes in them. Others towards the bottom are, like these are gonna get discarded. I can sort by the highest ranked stories. It helps to also look at my most recent. So again, this is an SEO post that I might write. Again, these are different views, but they're all centralized. In our Notion course, you can do public facing websites. This was the dashboard that we used for, if you look up here where my mouse is, the 22 odd students. We had the syllabus, the curriculum. We had our file cabinet with different, course directory. If you go in here, you could see the different students that participated in the course. Here's a dashboard that I use for my consulting relationships. Again, I'm a life coach or an executive coach, and so I have detailed session notes. These are shared privately with individuals, and then I share them libraries. And you'll notice anytime there's a link, it comes from this weird thing called JJ Library. And so what I wanted to show you guys next is that this is the real power of Notion. Everything that I just showed you is pulling from 4 or 5 major databases. And so this got moved. But if you looked, remember I showed you that bookshelf? If you look at bookshelf, this is the actual table. And this is like the view. If I'm doing edits, like this is it. This is as a spreadsheet. So, if I need to, make this nonfiction, or if I need to start ranking things, this would probably be a 4. This is my raw data that I can link to all these other places. If you look at JJ Library, these are all of the different links I've ever clipped from the internet. And so you can, again, look at master table. This is just like a giant reading list of things that I've read. Some of it's tagged, some of it's not tagged. And I'll show you that on my dashboard, I like to pull from that table. This is from my library. And so these are the posts that I really want to read, that I've identified as want to read. These are the posts. These are the most recently added. And again, I'll show you the dashboard once I go through all the different databases. One database is actually in the wrong place, but let me go grab it for you guys. My CRM, which is my people, the people in my life. And again, this is not like a hardcore, you wouldn't use this CRM to do sales, but this, like, I have notes that I keep track of, different conversations I've had. And again, I can link these notes. Anything that's in a table can be linked to another table, and I'll show you how that works. So this is really the magic of Notion, is that you have databases at your disposal, but then you can take all this data and distill it to these little tiny clean units that show you exactly what you want to be working on at any point in time. And so this is my dashboard. This is really where I cue the behaviors that I'm interested in. I love the question. I always ask myself, what would your future self want you to work on today? And that really cuts through. It's like, no, not inbox zero, no, not social media, but like, for me, it actually is like creating world-class course experiences. This is just like a little scratch pad. It's not linked to anything, but it just, it shows me like, it's basically like if you had a notebook, these are the 3 things that I want to get done today, and then it just rolls off. It doesn't even save anywhere. I use cues for habit tracking. I try to do 2 Pomodoros a day, meditate twice a day, and send a text or an email to a loved one. And then I just jot down at the end of the day how I felt. Again, doesn't really go anywhere, just some archive. These are my 4 most accessed databases. I can quickly input data into them, and they act as inboxes as well to let me know that I need to parse through them. Then there's my reading list, and then just some little notes about how to parse through this. But again, you'll notice JJ Library, this is all pulling from the same sources. This task list is pulling from my master task list. This rad reads list is, that's actually different. That's related to rad reads, but this CRM is pulling from JJ CRM. And just so you know, the reason why it's JJ is it's a hack that I use to get around how slow the Notion search is. And so if you tag important files with JJ and you type that in, like I'll do Command P and JJ, it will only show me the most important databases that I use, and this one random one. So it's just like a hack that I use for keyboard shortcuts. And then lastly, I wanted to show you a master task list. So again, this acts like a to-do list. You'll see the traces of getting things done, inboxes, reviews. But the beauty of it is that I get to link any task to a project, right? So a project or an area. So remember I told you that, product is an area where I spend the most time. Well, if I wanted to add a to-do list, that just showed me my product related tasks. I'm going to do this fast, but I could share, this video will be shared with you later. I would go into JJ tasks. Oops, tasks. Oh, task isn't tagged as JJ yet. That should be fixed. These are all my tasks, but what I do is I quickly go, I create a view that says product only. I will click on two sorts, I'm sorry, a filter, just to say, only show me the para project that is related to product. Boom. These are all the tasks that are linked to product, with which basically is rad reads. And so think about what's just happened there, right? You have a list of all these tasks. You have a list of all these people. You have a list of all these web clippings, and you have all these notes that are rolled into product, and they all talk to each other. It's incredible. It's uncanny. And you saw how quickly I was able to just add this little to-do list into it. And so this is something that really, it's so powerful. I don't think people fully appreciate it. And we haven't even touched the surface on databases, on global tagging systems. That's beyond the scope of this AMA and these office hours. But that is a quick and dirty walkthrough of my setup. And so with that, I will open it up and take any questions that you may have. And I'd love it if you ask the question via video, but if you rather do it over text, over chat, that's fine as well. Don't be shy. Gaetano, I think, or Gaetano. Apologies if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Let me see if Gaetano has a question. Oh, Ace. You should be able to just unmute yourself. If not,
Hi there.
hello, sir.
All right. My quick question is actually, so it's awesome. What is the what's the MVP to get started? What would you say is, what's your gateway drug for this? Because I look at it and I go, it's awesome. I love the end state, but it's pretty, it might be pretty aggressive for me to take apart my current system to try something new.
That's a wonderful question. What's the gateway? I would flip the question back to you two ways. What's your current pain point? That's one question. And then the second question, which is a little bit more theoretical, is what's your atomic unit of work? I think I know from our Slack group, or I can suspect. But let's start with, like, what's your pain point? Like, when you go into your system of notes and this, like, what's not working? That might be a starting point, and we could take that sliver and move it over.
Yeah, so right now I have a things set up, Evernote, and a bunch of clipped things.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, going to text file. Well, in Evernote, in, I'll just say, files that might exist, etc. Okay. There is no red. I mean, what I like about Notion could be the red thread that pulls it all together, which is very attractive. But I'm trying to look for a use case. I mean, maybe the use case would be, right now I have a things set up for people I need to call. And it isn't necessarily tied to my contact list or how they like to be contacted. So maybe the CRM was sort of appealing to me.
Yeah, the CRM, I would always caution about a CRM as a starting point, because I often think that the CRM by itself is a problem in search of a solution. Like, unless you're a salesperson and you need to be, like, so scientific about who you call, what you talk about every single, moment of the day, I think of the CRM more as a way to, like, organize the people and just jot down some notes around them. So it's almost like if each person was an Evernote with, like, a little bit of tagging. So that could be an interesting one. I would say, as a longtime Evernote user, I would say when you start, if you were going to start a new Evernote, if you're going to write a new Evernote, I'm not sure what that would be, but I would consider just writing that Evernote in Notion. And so using it, like, as a note card or a note, and then thinking about, seeing the difference in experience of that note, like in creating it. So great example. Two things off the bat that differentiate Notion notes from Evernote notes is that Notion notes support linking like really easily, like HTML, web style linking, and embeds. You can embed a tweet, whatever, and it's a beautiful embed that you can resize and so on. So I can share with the group, one of my gateway videos is, it's like a 13 series video that creates a document that you share with people often. And the example that I use is like when you have visitors at your house, it's like the Wi-Fi password, a list of restaurants, a map, some kids' activities, some links. That could be like an interesting use case because you'll see the power of the text editor, and then you'll see the ability to share it responsively and cleanly.
Oh, that makes sense. I mean, I was thinking about Notion as a headless Evernote. And so the idea would be, look, if I can put it somewhere, I don't have to build it myself. And I can actually pull it and put it wherever I want, which it sounds like you're kind of doing. And I like my things set up because it's on my watch, it's on my phone, it's on my, and I'll take I don't want to dominate, but I'll just say, question for you is, how do you do daily capture? If you're out and around, what are you using for that?
It's a great question, Ace. And it's actually a question that I got often in the course and that I get often just about with regards to Notion is I'm not 100% Notion. I'm like 90% Notion. And the last 10% is my version of things, which is OmniFocus. Sure. I've used OmniFocus for, I think, a decade now. It is so wired, the quick capture, both how well it works and how it is ingrained in my brain, is so clean to me that I don't see myself changing that anytime soon because it's just a habit that's so entrenched. What has changed, though, is the percentage of tasks stored in OmniFocus. And the things that are stored in OmniFocus are basically like very low impact tasks. They are like buy the milk, pay the tuition bill, like things that are like really tasks in the deepest, like the sense of tasks. Where Notion comes in, it's like change the banner on your website. Like totally that's a task, but it's almost like a list / roadmap / in my world, it doesn't have a deadline. So Notion has kind of slotted into that space that's not like a quick and dirty task, but it is that important but not urgent where, a lot of these things are like lists, like bucket lists, things you want to work on, but you can then give them that little push of task to really cement it into like a broader system.
Makes a lot of sense.
Cool.
All right. Thanks, Kay.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions? I know you guys do. They can be really basic ones. All right. I will ask two questions that people have asked me often. I use Evernote. Should I switch? And so my answer to that is similar to what I told you, Ace. Start with a little sliver. And so for me, I had all these notes on the articles that I had read, and I moved them over to Notion. And it's actually really easy to do that because you basically, if you export when you export Evernote, you export individual notebooks and it keeps all the tags. Because if you saw in my Notion setup, Evernote is basically like Notion, right? They created a notebook, which is a table. They created tags, which are columns. You can just customize it yourself. So what I suggest to people is move a sliver over of your life into Notion. Play around with it. See how it feels. There are definitely drawbacks versus Evernote. The Clipper's not as good. It doesn't have OCR scan. It can't integrate into Zapier. So there are definitely drawbacks on using Notion over Evernote. It's slower. The search is not as good, but especially if you use tables, embeds, and nested linking, and toggles, it will be very, very hard to go back. And again, this is my personal opinion. Like, it doesn't seem like Evernote has made any strides like on its product roadmap in years at this point. And I always said, I liken it to my time in the finance industry. I was like, I don't want to be a growing guy in a shrinking industry. And so I would apply that as like, I don't want like my growing potential to be limited by a shrinking product. So one other person pop in. Any other questions?
Is there anything else that is not EverQuote, but Evernote like that you've seen that you actually like?
In terms of other apps?
Well, as specifically thinking about clipping. So clipping is actually one of my big, hey, I'm on the web, I want to grab this and I want to save this PDF and I want to just deal with it later.
Yep. In terms of clipping, no. I would say that the best way, the other notes app that often comes up is Bear Notes. I've heard amazing things about Bear. Particularly, it's like the anti-Notion. It's like minimalist, crazy fast, clean. I mean, Notion has a clean UI, but Bear has a fast UI. But Ace, if you are going to, if you clip a lot, I'd look at the Notion Clipper. It's not as good like the Clipper itself, but once the thing that's clipped is in, then it's very powerful inside because you can create all your own metadata. So for example, if I clip an article that I want to reread every year, I can add a flag like reread every year. And then I could add a formula, like, because it's almost like your document lives in an Excel sheet. I could add a formula that says, if the last time I touched this document is within a year, flag it for me. So you can start to create like true workflows.
Very cool.
Nick has a question. Is there an easy way to link in stock prices to track a portfolio? Unfortunately, there isn't right now. So I do run scenarios on my portfolios in Notion. I invest in mutual funds, so and I do this quarterly, so I have to update 6 tickers every quarter. So the answer is no, and I'll be very upfront. I'm not Notion, but if you're gonna do like hardcore math, Notion is not the place to do it. Hardcore math, like a lot of calculations, I would stick with Excel or Google Sheets or like a true financial software. If you want to do like lazy financial math, like I described, where it's like every quarter you aggregate your balances and you maybe like multiply, everything with stock exposure by 0.5 to see like what it might look like in 2008, you could definitely do that in Notion. Super duper easy. I would also point out that Notion is probably in the next quarter gonna announce a big upgrade. I don't have any inside information. This is just off of their Twitter account. But in that upgrade, they will integrate most likely with Zapier. And so then kind of anything with regards to pulling in data from other sources is on the table. Any other questions? Just good questions. Is there a good, another one from Nick, is there a good full year calendar view? Nick, I don't think so. I don't use calendar view a ton. Let's see where I do use it. That would be in my calendar of events. Oh, sorry, I gotta share my screen for you guys. Let me share my screen. So calendar of events, add a view, calendar. Yeah, unfortunately the view is just monthly for now, Nick. All right, let me stop my screen share. Any other questions? I could give you some of the more common questions that came up in the course. One of the questions in the course was, do you have a philosophy around tags? And so Notion gives you the ability to tag anything in a spread in its table. I keep calling them spreadsheets, but they call them tables. So you can add all these tags. You saw in my CRM, I had all these different fields. It also, those tags are specific to that spreadsheet or that table. I have a philosophy on tags that's, again, deeply influenced by my friend Tiago Forte, which is on tags, you need to really ask yourself, like, why am I tagging something? And I think that one of the big challenges with Notion is that you can do so much that you feel like you should do so much, where oftentimes the best thing you should do is just create a blank note and like with a few comments and some bullet points. So the philosophy on tags would be either use a ton of tags, like hundreds and hundreds of tags, or use like 20 and really constrain yourself so the tags actually have value. And what that would do is that if you use 10, you really are targeted about what you want to find, and you know it's crossed the threshold of importance. And then the other would be use like thousands of tags, and then they become basically addendums to search. They become like little keywords that make your search better. And then I'll show you real quick with a share, you can get into something super powerful, which is you create a database of tags. So I'm just starting to build this out, but I have these tags of these things in my life that come up, and this could be anything. This I could link no code to any table in this in any of these databases. And so that becomes really powerful, because what I could say is, well, in my life, the no code movement is really important. And the no code movement touches these 7 articles, these 4 tasks, these 6 people, and these 2 books. And boom, I could pull that up. I haven't done that, but I could pull that up within a couple seconds. Any other questions? I could also flip it and ask you guys I could build something for you guys on the fly, something that you might want to use, and then you could watch that, and then I could share the template with you if that's helpful. So if someone's like, oh, I wonder how I could build X in Notion, I could try to fire that up on the fly and really put myself under the spotlights, like a stand-up comedian for geeks. Nothing, huh? Can't even entice you guys with that. Cool. Well, I guess.
I feel like we let you off the hook, off the comedian thing.
You should have. I mean, I can't tell jokes, but yeah, if you want to watch something on the fly, I would gladly do it. Or I could pick one myself because I've been thinking about it. If no one picks one,
How about this? Just because it's front of mind.
Yep.
Christmas card list.
Christmas.
How would you do that off your CRM for work person? Like, would you use Notion for that to split that because you already have it at their table?
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see. Okay, let's do that.
Pretty random use case, but it's.
Well, I could show you some neat little features, right? So what I would do. Let me share my screen. Christmas card list. So I would go into my table, my CRM, and there's all these people. But maybe what I would say is maybe I'd start off trying to think of what's the best. Okay, so I have a column that's called superpower, which is an area. It's an area. It's like a special skill that I think someone has through my own categorization. So this guy, and sorry if you know him, this is very complimentary, but he's total polymath. He's got a huge heart, and he's a rainmaker. Like, he finds investments all the time, and he's into crypto. So I would say that so I'd create a new view. It would be called Xmas. And then what I would say is I would create a filter that says, only show me people who have a superpower. Because what that means, like, if I don't know you, I can't say you have a superpower. So, which also means I wouldn't want to send you a Christmas card. So I would say superpower is not empty. So right there, it already, and if you see, I just use this little green emoji for people who I think are just like really just amazing people. So unfortunately, this green emoji is not in a searchable field, which would make this more difficult. And so then I might also say, show me, I'll grab that question in a second. I would say, show me the people, also sort it by the person I entered in the most recently, because that's probably like I had an interaction with them. And so I actually don't have the column there. So I would add a column. I would add a column that says created or last modified. I would go into last edited time. So this is the last. And then I would sort this list by last modified, descending. So then what I probably would do is I would start working backwards from this down. I would add another column that would be sent. Did I send the Christmas card? Checkbox. And then I would create another filter that if the checkbox is sent is empty. So if I send this to Justin, boom, he'll be gone. That wasn't like, that wasn't super, super fancy, but what do you think, Ace?
I think it could work, and I'm just going. I think the filtering. One of the things I'm thinking about is many of my relatives who get cards
don't have superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, aside from being related to me. And so what I'm trying to figure out is actually it was just a use case. I was just trying to figure out how you would sort that and how you would, put that in.
The filtering.
I don't want to make I don't want to make the address book my atom.
Yep.
I'd rather have the database.
Totally.
And then the other part related to search. Have you played? I guess when Zapier comes in. But have you played with dumping Notion in Algolia
In
and seeing what
Algolia?
happens? Yeah.
I
You
don't
played with
even
that?
know what that is.
Oh, it's a very cool Elasticsearch SaaS essentially.
Okay.
But you could dump a ton of stuff into it, and then it can really uncover interesting relationships.
Interesting. I've heard of something called Command E, CM, which is similar. Like it searches all your cloud.
Yeah.
But I
So
hadn't
this one is
heard of
basically going to
Algolia.
create personal indices. So each of those JJ databases could actually be an Algolia index, and you could actually then surface that to be your search, as opposed to trying to do it the other way through Notion.
Got it. Cool. Any other questions? We got 12 more minutes. Use cases. All right. Well, I would just say that I thank you guys for being on this AMA. I recognize many of the names in the chat box, so I thank you. Many of you are longtime supporters of RadReads, and like I said, this product has really, really changed my life because everything is so crystal clear. Everything, there's a home for everything. It's mapped to how my brain works. It's a tool that inspires creativity. Like I like being in the app. It's built around sharing, so you can share all of these things, like mobile, like very mobile friendly. And to think that they have 22 employees right now and a couple million users. Like it's still the early days. So I'm excited. I'm excited that I have the privilege of teaching a class on it. And but more importantly, what I care about more is teaching you guys how to use it. Forget the class. Like if you take the class, great. But I always, if you tweet at me, if you email me, I'll always send you back like a little video on like this is how I would do it in your scenario. So yeah, and I will send you guys in the follow-up email a little survey because I'm continuing to refine the course. I'd just love to hear what you would want to learn, regardless of whether you're going to take it or not. Awesome, everyone. Have a wonderful Thursday. Have a wonderful weekend, and you know where to find me. Peace.